Tyres are the only parts of a Formula 1 car that make contact with the racetrack, and as such, they serve as a very important reference point for drivers. There are 8 different compound tyres in Formula 1, but what is the difference between them? We've got everything you need to know about these highly advanced black circles of rubber in our latest F1 Explain It video. So, buckle up because we're about to embark upon the journey of F1 tyres and make a guide so you don't have to. Pirelli has been supplying F1 teams with tyres since 2011, returning to the sport after previous stints in the 1950s, 80s and 90s. Indeed, Pirelli was one of several companies to supply tyres at the start of the World Championship in 1950, with a slew of brands making appearances over the decades, during which time tyre technology advanced at the same rate as cars. Unlike in previous eras, when multiple tyre manufacturers competed against each other, resulting in a tyre war, Pirelli is now F1's sole exclusive supplier, with an agreement that runs through the end of the 2024 season. As part of sweeping changes to the technical regulations, Pirelli produced all new 18-inch tyres for 2022, with every element made from scratch, spanning the profile, structure and various compounds. Pirelli used more than 10,000 hours of indoor testing, 5,000 hours of simulation, and 70 virtual prototypes to create 30 different specifications, then tested by teams over 20,000 kilometers. Pirelli introduced some compound tweaks in 2023 after a successful first season under F1's rule reset, having conducted tests during practice for last year's Mexico City and Sao Paulo Grand Prix and in the Abu Dhabi postseason. Pirelli's 18-inch tyres are also more in line with the products used by motorists daily, making technology transfer easier and the road industry benefiting from the sport's year-on-year innovation. Pirelli's 18-inch tyre lineup for 2023 includes 6 slick compounds from softest to hardest, the C0, C1, C2, C3, C4 and C5, as well as intermediates and full wets to account for inclement weather. This represents a 1 compound increase over 2022. The C1 from last year has been renamed the C0 and is now the hardest tyre in the lineup, while the C1 for 2023 is an entirely new product that sits between the previous C1 and C2. Pirelli selects 3 compounds from the C0 to C5 slick range for each Grand Prix, considering track characteristics and climates, the hardest trio chosen for venues where the tyres are generally subjected to greater demands and vice versa. For the weekend, the highest numbered slick tyre is labelled red and known as the soft, the middle option is labelled yellow and known as the medium, and the lowest numbered is labelled white as known as the hard, alongside the green intermediate and blue full wet. In theory, the soft compound will provide the most grip for a short period of time, making it ideal for qualifying runs, whereas the medium and hard compounds will be more advantageous over a race distance. A typical weekend includes 13 sets of dry weather tyres, 4 sets of intermediates, and 3 sets of full wets. Those who qualify for Q3 will receive an extra set of softs, while all drivers must use at least 2 different slick compounds in the race, assuming the track is dry. Up to 2 events in the 2023 season will use a revised qualifying format, RQF, to evaluate whether the revisions are suitable for subsequent championships. This means that different tyre compounds will be required for each stage of F1's traditional 3-part qualifying session: hard tyres in Q1, medium tyres in Q2, and soft tyres in Q3. Intermediates and wets will be permitted if the RQF sessions are declared wet. Each driver may use up to 11 sets of dry weather tyres at RQF events, a slight reduction from the standard number, 4 sets of intermediate tyres and 3 sets of wet weather tyres. The other 5 tyre compounds are for dry weather and are labelled C1 through C5. C1 is the hardest tyre, meaning it will last the longest but have the least grip. C5 is the softest, so they will wear out quickly but have the best grip. As a result, the grip and longevity of these 5 different compounds vary on a scale. However, Pirelli will select 3 of these 5 tyre compounds for each Grand Prix. The hardest tyre chosen will be designated as the hard tyre for that weekend and it will have a white sidewall. The softest tyre, in turn, is known as the soft tyre for the weekend and is distinguished by its red sidewall. Finally, the third tyre type is known as the medium weekend tyre and has yellow sidewalls. Unless a wet race occurs, drivers must use 2 of the dry weather tyres during the race, so choosing the right tyres at the right time is critical and requires great skill and strategic planning. If you can't tell what type of tyres are on race day by looking at them, the Formula 1 app is a great way to check and find out. We are also told what tyre types are being used during the pre-race shows. Wet weather tyres are classified into green intermediate tyres and blue full wet tyres. The intermediates are used when the track is slick or there is light rain. When there is heavy rain or standing water on the track, full wet weather tyres are used. The hard, medium and soft tyres are called slick tyres in dry races. They have no grooves or patterns. Because there are no grooves, more rubber makes contact with the circuit surface, resulting in a better grip and making racing easier and faster. The intermediate and full wet tyres used in rainy races, on the other hand, have grooves to disperse water from the wet road surface. The green intermediate tyres are the most adaptable rain tyres. At 300 km/h, each tyre evacuates 30 litres of water per second. To deal with heavy rain, the full wet tyres are heavily grooved. At 300 km/h, each tyre evacuates 85 litres of water per second. Each Formula 1 team receives 13 sets of dry tyres to use throughout a race weekend, 2 hards, 3 mediums and 8 softs. In addition, they receive 4 sets of intermediate tyres and 3 sets of full wets. Teams receive an additional set of intermediate tyres if any of the 3 practice sessions are expected to be wet. They must, however, return one of the used sets before the qualifying round can begin. Formula 1 tyres are incredible engineering feats. They necessitate careful consideration and planning from team strategists as to how and when to use them, as a single error, such as incorrect tyre selection or even forgetting one of the tyres, can cost the driver valuable points and even a race victory. Do you think I'm joking? That has actually occurred. Ferrari cost Carlos Sainz more than 12 seconds at this year's Dutch Grand Prix, dropping him from 3rd to 6th after mechanics realised they only had 3 of the 4 tyres ready for the Spaniard as he approached the pits. He then assessed a 5-second penalty for unsafe release and finished 8th. As absurd as it may appear, any Formula 1 team, regardless of championship position, can make costly mistakes in strategy or pit lane. We've seen it 1,000 times. Drivers choosing a specific compound to begin with quickly realized it was the wrong choice. As conditions changed, you chose wet or dry tyres too soon or too late, or failing to predict how fast different compounds will run in race conditions. There's a lot more to it than simply installing 4 new tyres. Formula 1 will trial a reduction in allocated tyre sets from 13 to 11 at 2 races in 2023 to make tyre usage more sustainable. If the weather is dry, the use of tyres in qualifying will be mandated as hard in Q1, medium in Q2 and soft in Q3. During qualifying, teams are usually free to use any tyre compound they want. The tyre grooves were painted green at the 2008 Japanese Grand Prix as part of the FIA's Make Cars Green campaign to reduce the environmental impact of motoring. The softer tyre still had the second innermost groove painted white, as is customary. Due to the lack of grooves on the tyres, the white stripe used to differentiate between tyres was no longer possible when slicks were introduced at the start of the 2009 season. Following that, in a continuation of the Make Cars Green tyres campaign in Japan, Bridgestone painted the option tyre sidewalls green instead. Thank you for stopping by to watch. Please subscribe to the channel and post your video recommendation in the comments area if you want us to do more videos like this.